Hello, and welcome to Project Koala bi-weekly meeting. This is March 12, Wednesday of 2025. We have no newcomers here, so let's move on to information from TC54. Hello, Vandana, welcome.
Hi, thank you.
Steve, any news from ECMA?
The only thing that I have is that I am working with Aki still. She's part of the, I don't know if she's consultant or if she's part of the ECMA staff. Anyway, she helps Samina out a lot. And she's been instrumental in getting EC markup kind of finalized. So I've been working with her over like the last week or so. And I believe we finally got it to the point where we can, from a GitHub action, we can generate the ECMA compliant PDF from our markup. So we should be in a good place. There is a few outstanding minor issues, but that's not going to prevent us from moving forward. So the next step, now that we can actually do this, is for me to actually hook up Prince XML, which is the tool. Again, we'll use it in a GitHub action. It's a tool that we use to take all of that EC markup that gets converted into HTML and create the PDF from it. So Prince XML basically supports all the print style CSS, which most of the browsers don't. So it's one of very, very few tools that do this. So I should have that done in the next few days. But at that point, again, we need to have the TG1 meetings and start actually figuring out what's going to go in the resulting document.
That's the topic of today's meeting. We decided last time, but we have some other issues. I remember that Philip said that Perl package URL standards are postponed. They've missed the deadline for this summer. There are so many open issues. So target now is December timeframe for ECMA.
And this is a good thing. Yeah, and this is actually a good thing because, you know, we've got a lot of community that's identified corner cases and various ambiguities, and we're really trying to flesh that out before 1.0. So there's no reason to rush this. It's good because we got a ton of community engagement. So this is a good thing.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I missed, but there was a meeting with a OpenSSF SBOM. Which group was it? SBOM Everywhere, or was it SBOM It? Or
it was the SBOM Everywhere, I believe it was. It's the group that Josh leads. Krobe was basically giving a summary, kind of an overview of what happened at the Open SSF Policy Summit in DC earlier. Was it? I think it was last week. And so he was giving an overview of kind of the outcomes of that, the attendees, and etc. And one of the things that they were, talking about was, the exchanging of these artifacts. And that's kind of where I kind of raised my hand and saying, hey, we're working on this. I gave Krobe some basic information, and of course he knows you. So, yeah.
And there's been a few people reaching out, so that's really good.
That's great.
For the hackathon at AppSec Global in Barcelona in May, we are in discussion about details. Some Swedish guy was supposed to write a document that isn't done yet, but I'll do that. We have some discussions with ECMA about participation in the hackathon, but it looks right, and you should really plan to get to Barcelona. The hackathon is planned for the day before the actual conference. If you just come down from the hackathon, it's going to be free. And we're hoping to get sponsors for food and beverages and yeah, the stuff that hackers want.
I won't be able to make it. My CFP did not get accepted, so I'm not making it down to Barcelona, fortunately.
Oh, okay. We got acceptance, me and Anthony, on an SBOM talk.
Cool.
So the group will be covered at least.
Nice.
And if anyone wants a ticket for the early bird prize that's not available, they can buy mine and we can change name for it. Otherwise, I'll return that. I think both me and Anthony bought those in preparation.
Yeah. Of note, I think of note that we've been, has this been finalized, Ole, that you do not have to attend the conference in order to attend the hackathon?
That's what the latest message from Star.
Right.
But I can double check. But that's what I expected. But we encourage people to go to the conference. If they go to Barcelona,
Of
the
course.
conference is brilliant to participate in. Especially if you buy my early bird ticket. Anyway, we have been having a couple of ad hoc workshops, as you've seen on the Slack channel, some planned far in advance, some very ad hoc. But we really need to move forward. A special thank you to Piotr, who has been helpful in these. We've gone through and we realized that the Open API spec and the tech specs weren't the same. So we compared both and taken the best out of the two. We have focused on the primary entry points. Basically, when you have a TEI and you found a web server, where do you go next? That's where we have a data set that wasn't specified at all in Markdown that we now have specified, which I here call the TACE, the sold product, right? That could be a bundle of multiple products or a single product and all that. We will continue from there when we merge those parts to leaf, collection, and artifact. We have a couple of pull requests we need you to look at. And we need to plan the next workshop so people can actually plan instead of just jumping into something when I yell in the channel. We've been running late afternoons, right, Piotr? Because I haven't heard anything from Australia. If you want to join Vandana, which time zone are you on?
I am in IST.
Okay. So late afternoons European time would work.
Yes, absolutely. That'll work.
Yeah.
Is it better morning?
So looking at my own calendar, I could schedule something Friday afternoon. I could run Monday next week. Or possibly late afternoon Wednesday next week.
We can maybe make something after the TG2 meeting. So after at 16 Central European time.
Well, I haven't got the TG2. Which day are we talking about?
Friday. Yeah.
Oh, this Friday. Okay. Is there a TG2 there? 4 o'clock this Friday?
For me, it's okay.
Sure, it
But-
works for me as well.
Yeah. And Valeria?
I don't know if I can make it, so I don't vote. Okay, we'll start with that and see. We should probably schedule something for next week as well to move on. Valerio, can you possibly participate next week, or
Yeah.
any time that is preferred for you?
No preference. So you guys decide.
So why not continue then at Monday while we have things in our heads? Would Monday 4 o'clock also work?
Yeah.
For me, I think I can be there for half an hour. Then I need to.
Would 3 o'clock be better for you then?
Yeah, I would prefer 3 o'clock.
Okay. Good. I'll
One question.
make sure. Yes, Mark?
How sort of technical are the workshops? Because I haven't sort of attended in the past. For one main reason is because it's like right in the middle of my workday. But I had a meeting with sort of senior management on Monday where basically they said, hey, these kind of activities are actually encouraged. So if I'm able to actually contribute, I'm happy to participate. I just want to know, do I have anything to contribute, not being a developer or anything like that?
I was afraid that you were going to say that you wanted to invite senior management, and that would be really awkward.
No,
I can say, yeah. I mean, you definitely understand the core of T, and we're discussing object models and possible API interaction. Some of it is very technical, but I think you can definitely help with the general principles.
Right.
I
Well,
would say that most of it is not technical.
good. I'll try and join the Monday meeting then. Actually, the Friday, because that's the first one.
Yeah, if you want a personal invite for your calendar, you just reach out to me on Slack and I'll add you to a Zoom booking. Otherwise, I'll just post the Zoom link in Slack before the meeting. But here you see some of the various notes we had where we compared the object model from Open API and the markdown specs. We discuss API entry points and discuss the various models we have. How do we get the leaves? That was.
Yeah, but the most important
this
part
was
is
your
what kind
new
of data do
example.
you want there?
Yeah, this is a new example that we probably should bring into use cases as well, where we have a typical home router, broadband router, that has a hardware board with an HBOM that have main firmware, OS and software. There are a couple of pieces there that are separate from each other, but still part of the router. So that's a good example alongside with the Philips Hue labs I keep returning to, and includes the hardware board as well.
Yeah, and it's different because you cannot sell those parts separately.
Exactly. Yeah. It's not a bundle of things you can buy separately, but still, you have different versioning on all these components. I think jail doorman lock have 2 or 3 different pieces of firmware that are separate from each other, for instance. Yep. Okay. Moving on, a main topic of today, as agreed on in last meetings, we concluded that if we want to be an ECMA T standard by December, we need to start the core meetings, which I will schedule. You and I probably need a separate meeting for that, Steve, so I get all the formalia right. I had a meeting and discussion with Samina as well. So we are on track. But we need to make a detailed plan here on documentation. One thing is the missing documentation and that we have different pieces not aligned. But we also need to get into that. I can't find possible words, but we need to get into the document production that ends up with the PDF that Steve keeps talking about, because that's really, really important to get right. So we need to compose some templates, even though we haven't finalized all the detail, but get those GitHub actions going. And the way I see it, and I may be wrong, but just before the meeting, I tried to summarize that we have kind of a core API spec, which is most of the markdown that we have today and use cases possibly. We have a separate specification of the TEI, the identifiers. And we had these discussions also in TC54, how we handle registries, meaning that if we have parts of a standard like package URL types or TEI types that are moving faster than the rest of the specification, in ITF we solved that by defining a registry for IANA. And we haven't got that in CycloneDX or in ECMA, but we may need one. But we need to figure that out so we can move some parts without moving the whole specification. Then we have the open API specs, which we agreed to split up. Yes, Piotr.
The TI spec also goes to ECMA, or will it goes to IETF?
I think the TI in Perl, the Perl syntax goes to ECMA, and the TI syntax, I think, will be part of the ECMA specs. But the different TI, maybe one or two of the core types.
But we need
But
an
we
RFC to
we
register
need
to IANA.
Oh,
Oh.
that's a separate thing, yeah. But we need a way to add TEI types as we discover them, because we discovered now that the medical industry has a couple of ones. I think car industry possibly. I mean, as we go into vertical markets, there will be identifiers where they come to us and say, we need to use our existing identifiers. And if we say you have to wait 1 year to be compliant, I think that's no good.
But can't we separate you basically have a register, like you said, with just the specifications for there is like how the format itself look like at a big picture, right? But what goes into each, I guess, what's the naming convention? I'm not sure what you want to use there.
Yeah.
Could be implementation specific and thus not part of the specification, if that makes sense. Is that something that's possible to do, or I'm not familiar enough with the standardization, but I'm just saying, like, because that's basically
that's exactly what we're trying to do, Victor.
Right. Okay.
Because both we and package URLs may need it, but we need to figure out if this is something that we handle within CycloneDX, or if we can move ECMA to do something. We haven't done it before, but we see the need from two parallel projects here. So we'll continue that discussion, but I'm writing here, T types are possibly external registry. We'll see. But could also be that we take it in two parts, that we say that we now in the first spec register 10 types or something, right? And we say that in order to be compliant with T, you either have to use one of these types or a type that is blah, blah, blah in this repository, specified in this repository while waiting for official ECMA standard. So there can be ways we open up for extensions, but we have to make that very smooth in order to encourage fast, rapid adoption by these groups.
And I assume the big picture goal is to avoid clashes, right? Oh, sorry, Peter.
Not at all. So for TEI, we just probably need to specify it's URN TEI opaque part. We need to specify that each type of TEI needs to have a resolution algorithm.
Oh,
And we give the one that we already have, right? So these
Yeah.
are the three parts that go into ECMA, and the rest is if you want to register it, you send an RFC. Because I think TI is much easier than Perl. Perl is
Yeah.
uniform. Perl specifies everything in the same thing in the same way, while we probably give a lot of space to implementations and subtypes.
Yeah, but the package URL types are different depending on package, depending on type, right? The syntax
Yeah, but
use
the main
different
syntax
things.
is there, whereas we
Yeah.
just specify the prefix and then what goes after.
Yeah,
It depends on the.
Yeah, we have a much simpler problem to solve. Anyway, regardless, I haven't seen Steve. I'm possibly we discussed but haven't made any decision about JSON schemas. But the OpenAPI spec is a large JSON file. Would we include that in the PDF, Steve, or have it as an appendix, or?
For the, well, we'll probably end up doing basically what we did with CycloneDX. We use the JSON schema as the source of truth. And by doing that, we can have all the unit tests and everything else that's necessary. But because it's a source of truth, it becomes the documentation.
Yeah, but
And
the
we can-
OpenAPI isn't JSON schema, but still, we can still refer to it as a source of truth. But then we need to produce documentation for each entry
Well,
point. But I think,
what I'm saying is that you use the JSON schema, and just like what we use for CycloneDX, we read the schema, we read the documentation, and we automatically generate the PDF.
yeah, I think there are ways to, I need to experiment with that, to generate a markdown from the JSON file, which isn't JSON schema, it's a JSON file, OpenAPI syntax followed. And we'll look at that and see if that could be the basis, because then we'll get all the, if that's similar to the HTML output that we see in Swagger, we'll get all the API endpoints, we get all the documentation from within the JSON file. I think that would be, if that works, that would be brilliant.
Yeah, we'll need a volunteer to kind of write a script to do that.
I think there are tools to convert to Markdown. The OpenAPI
Well, we don't need
generator
to-
does.
We can't go to Markdown. I mean, we can, but it doesn't really help us. What we need to do is go to EC Markup so that we can create the PDF.
I thought there were tools from Markdown to easy markup. Okay.
EC Markup is an ECMA specific
Okay.
markup language.
That's what the JavaScript folks started using, right?
It is, yeah, because they have a lot of specs over in TC39, JavaScript being just one of them. But yeah, this is a way for them to create those PDFs in an automated fashion.
Okay. We have to look into that. Where do we find easy markup? I know I got a link before, but
The documentation is fairly extensive, and I already have the T, the what was it, the ECMA XXXT repo. That is already there's a spec.html. That's basically what we need to author. That spec.html.
yeah, I was wondering about the specification, but I found it.
Yeah. And as part of TC54, Jordan Hubbard, who is contributing a lot to TG3, which is Common Lifecycle Enumeration. He actually knows EC markup very, very well.
Oh,
yeah,
good to know. Okay, but so that's one thing we need to look at, and then see if we can combine the various pieces together that we have and either deprecate the old files and start working in a new format or move. But it's not that much of a text. We should be able to move that to easy markup and continue from that as the core instead of Markdown.
Yep. Now I can actually, I mean, if we have the Markdown, first of all, is the course part of the spec in a, I'm not going to say final, but is it in a fairly stable state at this point?
Nope.
Okay.
Our cleaning things up, we realized that we were missing a specification of one of the objects. So we have that in a pull request and other things. But
okay.
I think we can do a test run to learn the ropes and see how it would look in order to find areas where things doesn't work. So we may have to change the way we produce the documentation. But we would need a beginner's guide introduction lesson on easy markup. But maybe I can ask Jordan if he wants to run something for us. So
yeah, that'd be actually really great. Be useful. Because I have to do the same exercise for CycloneDX now that all the tooling seems to be working.
Yep. It sounds exciting to have that GitHub workflow for it. That's something we missed a year ago. Okay. Cool. So that's the first step, to run a test run and then see if we need to or can move our Markdown files to easy markup, but also figure out how to convert the OpenAPI spec into something that can become a text document in ECMA. Any other issues?
No, just a question, I guess, for you all. As I'm kind of getting back into the game here, I wanted to do a sweep this or next week, as I promised overdue. Where should I most direct effort to? I'm thinking use cases and then cross-reference those against specs. Is that a good use of time?
I think so. Having samples, something that touch reality, I think it would be great.
Right. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. It's easy to write a spec, but then,
yeah, we do have use cases in the Markdown, in the
Yeah, I know.
repo, but we need to add some stuff there.
Yeah.
So yes, absolutely.
Okay. I'll take a note of doing some testing there until next meeting then. And then
you know where to find me if you stumble into problems. But I would also like, now that you're back and I know it, I will come back to you with questions about OpenAPI.
Yes. Yes.
Because as you said, you weren't done really with a spec, and now we're dividing it and changing it. So
Yeah,
I
that's
just
fine.
would like to touch base there with you.
Yeah, we must have a
Well-
dedicated call for that all and just like touch base on that perhaps.
Yeah, and use native language to just exclude everyone else.
Indeed.
Talk a little bit of Swedish. Yeah, anyway, but that would be good. I really had help of Piotr. We stumbled into some parsing problems of OpenAPI, but we figured them out. There were some namespaces that collided, and we separated them or just baked them together and solved a couple of other problems as well. But I think we're making progress. Okay.
And then we probably will convert it to YAML, right? Because Java's
OpenAPI.
JSON is hardly readable.
And that's kind of interesting. I only written in YAML before, but you, Victor, and Paul, you wrote in JSON. And the first question you get when you run it in the Swagger editor is that, should I convert this to YAML for you?
I mean,
don't know if they're equal from OpenAPI, both the formats, or.
I didn't make an intentional effort in either. I just took what's already there and built on with that. I have no strong opinion. They both have their issues, both formats, I guess.
Oh yeah.
With YAML, you're in indentation hell, and with JSON, you're in with other issues, right? So they both have ups and downs. I mean, I have no strong opinion either side.
No, okay.
Give you
Now,
my 2
I just
cents
find
here.
it curious. Oh, sorry, Valerio.
Yeah, a quick add to this. The reason why I go to YAML is that it's a superset of JSON. You can add comments, but the most important thing is anchors. That is going to reduce a lot of footprint. It's fantastic.
Oh. Okay.
I think you can do that with JSON-P. I'm not sure that's supported though.
JPath?
I don't know.
Or
yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's I was just curious because every time I pasted in the JSON, I got that question. Convert to YAML. And I'm like, no, keep it in JSON. Move on.
If there's consensus to move it, I'm happy to move it. Otherwise, yeah.
I think the problem we have right now has nothing to do with the format. It's just that we need to learn the ideas, and if we stumble into issues we can't solve within the JSON format, fine. Then we'll take that discussion. But right now, I don't think that's the problem. The problem is that
yeah, your point is valid about reusability and all that stuff, right? Because we do want to dry it up, so that's absolutely valid.
I write a lot of blueprints and boilerplate, and believe me, it works very well.
Okay, so we may have a reason then. One thing I wonder is including external files. Like some of the objects we have here, we would like to use elsewhere. So
that should be the same. I think so. So the main object should be probably in a separate file.
Yeah, but can OpenAPI handle that? I haven't done it myself. And how would you refer to an external file without a preprocessor? We need to figure that out.
I mean, that is one argument for consolidating them, I guess. Because then you don't have that problem.
No. Okay. For the task group formal meetings, how much are you aware of the process we have in CycloneDX and ECMA for standardization? The community part versus the ECMA part? Okay. I don't see people screaming, yelling, saying, I know. So basically, we came up with a model where we have a community process where we develop all the cool stuff, and anyone can participate depending upon interest and energy, right? We prefer that people are OWASP members, of course, but it's not formal requirements. But then we take that work when kind of completed into ECMA and begin the ECMA standardization process. In there, we don't invent new things. If we see problems that need fixing, we open a ticket and the community process takes care of that and feeds back. But there is a formal standardization where we have to go through the complete document, make sure it's Queen's English or King's English, make sure the commas and all that stuff is in the right places, that we have proper references to external documents we depend upon, like Open API specs or RFCs or other things. And then we move it forward as a proposal when we're done within that group. And this is task group 1 within TC54. And I think from there on, we propose it to, what's the name, the General Council or General, Steve?
Yeah, it gets sent to the Exicom, which is the executive committee,
Exicom.
who then recommends it to the General Assembly for a vote. I do want to clarify one thing, however, and
Okay.
while what Ole said is absolutely correct, however, the TC54 is not just a rubber stamp. They actually take an active role in the development of all standards, including CycloneDX. And in some cases, if they don't like something, they will send it back. That happened last week with some of the CycloneDX work that we're doing. So they take a very active role in the development of the specification.
Yep.
So when we present our work, we need to be, you know, if it's questions in terms of, you know, why did you make this decision or that sort of thing, we need
Yep.
to be prepared with solid answers. We also need to be prepared for possibly changing it.
I think package URL combined the work in ECMA with the community work, so they run it as one process, since there was no community process beforehand, and we may do that as well. In the ECMA group, I think we stated this before, but I don't think all of you have heard, we can have ECMA members, and we should have ECMA members, but we can also have invited experts that are not ECMA members. I'm an invited expert currently in TC54. I believe Apache Software Foundation is now an ECMA member, so Piotr will be forced to participate as a full ECMA member. We need a bit more. We have I didn't bring up that document. We have a few that can participate in the task group as ECMA
I'm sorry
members
to
as well.
interrupt. I will have to go in a few minutes. So if you schedule TG1, can you do it somewhere on Thursday or Friday? Because I would like to be really free there, and Wednesdays usually. So near the other TG2 and TG3 before or after. I think that's ideal. Yeah.
Okay. So I was just about to ask
Okay.
the
So
question.
I have to go. Bye bye.
Okay,
All right,
bye.
Piotr.
So what time, I hate to ask this question, where do you have holes, Steve? I mean, we can start bi-weekly the meetings we don't have this meeting. Or, and since Wednesday is gone, we can't use the Wednesday time slot we have today.
We've got at what time is it? There is a every other week TG2 meeting on Friday at let's see, at 3 p.m. CET. That actually works really well for me. So like this Friday is the TG2 meeting, and Friday the 21st, for example, at the same time, there isn't one, but we can schedule the TG1 meeting at that time if you like.
So that's even weeks, week numbers, Friday 21 at 3 o'clock. Would that work for people who want to attend? It works for me, definitely.
Okay. I will, I'll put that on the OWASP calendar. And I mean, if we need to change it, we can change it. Right? It's not written in stone. So, but I'll go ahead and get that scheduled and let everyone know the invite. We do
Yeah.
need to get additional ECMA members involved.
Yeah, I was gonna look for that document because we had lined up a few and I took notes. Let me figure this out. We had John, Keith, Lockheed Martin. We need to check with him. But Ian put us in contact with him, and he's a member. And now Piotr is representing a member.
Is Paul representing OWASP or is he representing Sonotype?
I haven't been in contact with him since he got a kid. But I don't know if Sonotype are members.
That's a good question. I don't know.
Mm.
I'll reach out to Brian Fox and
Yeah.
kind of let him know about what's going on.
But Victor, Valeria, Vandana, Mark, anyone interested in participating here?
Yeah, happy to put me down. I would be interested in being part of that.
Yeah.
Okay, I will contact you on the Slack channel because there are some forms I need to fill in and then a process. So you will be contacted by Samina from ECMA, and she will do the nitty-gritty details. Okay?
Sure.
Steve, are you in ECMA as part of ServiceNow or OWASP?
I am ServiceNow.
ServiceNow. Okay.
The conveners have to be paying ECMA members. And so OWASP and the ASF, for example, are nonprofits. They do not pay to be ECMA members. Ideally, I personally do not want to be the convener of this group. I mean, I've been doing it, which is fine. But ideally, we'd want to get another paying ECMA organization and somebody from that organization to take on the convener role.
I wasn't aware of the distinction between paying and non-paying members, but okay.
Yeah.
My secret plan didn't work out then. We'll have to come back to that. I applied beforehand for something called CyberStan that would include paid membership. And I probably need to do that again. We'll see. But that could be an outcome. But I had been having that discussion with Samina, and we're looking for ways forward to solve the problem. Okay. Cool. I think I have a link to, yeah, the invited expert forum here. Okay. So I should have all the information I need to get that going. Great.
Don't the invited experts have to fill out some kind of form about intellectual property and so on and so forth? Something which
I
I
think
have not done.
it's basically this form. I confirm that I wish to participate and knowledge about the bylaws, rules, and the code of conduct in patent matters. So yeah, there are a few things you need to agree on here.
Yeah, and all of TC54 uses the ECMA royalty-free patent policy.
Yeah.
So basically, I can just provide you with this link and I'll add that to the chat. Okay.
Good.
Yeah.
But
One question I don't know who can provide insight. Is this the sort of thing where normally it would be good practice before completing such a form to actually go back to your own company to just check to make sure that they're okay with it?
especially when it comes to patents and royalty freeness, absolutely.
Okay, yeah. No, I'll get that going. Thank you.
So final words, please review pull requests and help us move forward. We have a target of launching a beta 1 at the end of the month. I still think that's possible, but then we need participation in the workshops and movement in pull requests and other things. So, but I think it's reachable that we have a stable, I would say, at least one version of the OpenAPI spec in beta mode so we can start implementation work at that point.
And
We're
this is the
doing great
consumer
stuff.
API, right?
It's the consumer API we're focusing on.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the primary focus. We're doing great stuff. Thank you, everyone, for participating, and looking forward to meeting you again in the coming days and weeks. So next workshop will be on Friday, and then Monday, and then we have the first TG1 meeting on Friday the 21st. Brilliant.
Fantastic. Thanks, Ole.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks, everybody. Cheers. Bye.
Bye.